Rejection. 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 God, this is depressing. This is worse than Phil and Christie's banter on location, location, location. Worse still than the 3 days I spent on Tinder. I don't even want one. I'm being rejected from half the time. And somehow that just makes it more depressing. Actually, the ratio is probably about the same as on Tinder. And I was considered a picky swiper. On top of that, I'm actually qualified for some of these positions. Whereas all the skills and experience to be a Prince Charming continue to elude me. What's really unfair is my dream job's already been taken. It's based in a little train station in Sweden. Unfortunately, it has sod all to do with trains. Instead, someone is being paid the average wage to do absolutely nothing. They don't even have to pretend to like the Queen or people in human resources. Just clock in at the start of the day in a little office and clock out again at the end. You don't even have to stay in the office. You can go back to bed if you like. They don't care. You could even get another job on top. I'm not sure why you would. I must have applied for at least 100 positions in the last year or so. The reason this one sticks out to me, besides the fact that it's awesome, is that I wrote about it for the last job I applied for that I actually wanted. It wasn't particularly cool, and it didn't pay very well. But it was at least more realistic than the Swedish one, and it was interesting, to me at least. It was an analyst role for a public pensions fund. I did warn you it wasn't cool. The focus was on how to safeguard ordinary people's life savings and invest in such a way as to encourage businesses to, say, build a wind farm rather than burn down the Amazon. Apparently, the world surviving a bit longer is quite important if you're into pensions. Now, I know what you're thinking. That writing on a job application about how much you like the look of a job in a Swedish train station where you don't do anything would be detrimental, but you'd be wrong. It actually got me through to the next stage. You see, our favourite Scandinavian slacker was being paid by a group of artists who won some prize. Now, instead of spending the money on, stuff like normal people would, they decided to turn it into more art. Not by doing something stupid like burning it, but by investing it in stocks and shares. I know, super artistic, but just bear with me. They then used the interest and dividends to pay the average salary for the country to a person for as long as they wanted, just to do nothing. The point, to show how if you have money to begin with, you can make a lot more of it than the average person can just beavering away. Now, that might not sound like art to you, but it's made me think about the world a lot more than the Mona Lisa ever did. And I thought it'd be bloody interesting for a public pensions fund to hear about. Apparently they did too. Not that it mattered in the end. I didn't make it past the next stage. A pre-recorded video interview. It was before all this, when it wouldn't have been weird to just pop into an office for an hour. They could have put someone on the other end, just give me some clue as to how much rubbish I was talking. I applied to the police after that. A friend of mine thought I was having a breakdown when I told them, but I don't think they realised the depths I was willing to plumb at that point. Not literal depths, obviously, due to A, the complete lack of minds, thanks Thatcher, and B, my utter terror at even the concept of a submarine. I think I'd only been looking for about a month at that point, but still, it was getting to me. I was starting to dread opening emails, and I was really struggling to make my application sound sincere. So I considered the police. Considered all the big three, actually. Policeman, fireman, doctorman. Doctor was out, obviously, due to the requirements of being really, really smart and not calling it Dr. Man. Fireman was out too, also for 2 reasons. The less important one being my mysterious aversion to running into burning buildings. No, much worse was being called Sam. I think I'd die of embarrassment. Pound for pound, it seemed like police would be the easiest to get into, which, on reflection, might be a tad worrying. No, that's not fair. I mean, they didn't let me in, did they? And my friend was right, I would have hated the job, and I would have been terrible at it. It didn't make it sting any less to hear that they didn't want me. Oh, hang about. Notification, new email. Let's see then. Dear Sam, we were absolutely blown away by the quality and quantity of... Yeah, that's a rejection. It's a stock phrase, you see. They must think it softens the blow to say that, but let me tell you, the absolute certainty that there is a veritable tornado of motivated and highly qualified applicants ready to blow the hirer to proverbial Oz does very little to comfort those of us who are frequently neither. That's not true. It's not. I am, and I do try. It's just... Never mind. There'll be another. I'd like to be able to blame my situation on this pandemic lark, but if I'm honest, I wasn't having much luck before. Oh well. Onwards and upwards. Let's see, what's on the docket for this morning? Oh, goody. Working on covering letters. If granted magical powers to expunge one aspect of the application process for the benefit of job seekers present and future, it would be cover letters. Close second would be those online application forms that make you painstakingly fill out your personal details, employment history, and education right down to the C you got in GCSE food tech. Look, my cheesecake didn't rise in time, otherwise it would have been an A. Swear. Only for them to turn around and ask you to upload your CV as well. We've already got all that information carefully laid out, with pretty fonts and nice formatting. But worse still are cover letters. I mean, it's basically a letter jacking up the company's ego and telling them why you like them so much and suddenly begging them to give you a chance because, oh, just look at all your great qualities. Like a bad date you have to proofread. Every time I write one, I feel like a miserable little jester jingling about for an uninterested audience. And even if they were interested, all it would mean is getting to do their admin. And ask for feedback every time. And when they reply, it's normally to say that I need more experience. I should have built it up before now, but when exactly? Was I supposed to think at 12? Bloody hell, best get that paper round in, because that'll stand me in good stead for stacking shelves, which could lead directly to answering phones. God, if I'm lucky, I might be able to work for the next, 50 years? Don't suppose it's ridiculous to assume 75, 80 will be retirement by the time I get there. And at that point, how much life will I have left? I mean, I know you hear about pensioners who explore the Arctic or climb mountains, but I just don't think I'm going to be one of them. Not with my knees. And I know that there are people out there who didn't have a choice but to get those jobs when they were younger, and that I'm lucky that I didn't have to do that. But we shouldn't applaud the fact that children have to work to support their families or themselves because they have no other choice. We shouldn't be lauding them as go-getters or salt of the earth, real British bulldog-spirited, jolly good fellas. We should be fucking furious, ashamed. That even one child can't carve out a bit of their lives without work. Well, that might get some of your backs up. I had an uncle, not a favourite one, mind. For whom it certainly did. Back in my day, he said. And he really did use the phrase back in my day. I'm not just adding that in for effect. Back in my day, we'd do anything. Hard, dirty work. And do it for next to nothing. Dawn till dusk, rather than sit there unemployed. He spat that word out like it was swearing. I asked him, this Sisyphus of an uncle, whether he was happy doing that. And he looked at me like I was even more of an idiot than he had thought. Happy, he said. Of course not. It was bloody awful. But said I ought to do it just the same because he'd done it, and he'd turned out no worse for it. All I could think was, if you want someone to suffer as you have suffered just because you suffered, then perhaps you did turn out the worse for it after all, and are in fact a bit of an arsehole. Said that to him word for word, and apparently he's not coming around for Christmas, so some good's come out of it. He was right about one thing though. That I'm lucky to be able to sit here and complain about looking for work that I want to do when there are people out there who have to do things they hate every day to avoid actual starvation. He was right about that. But he said the thought of it should cheer me up. I really can't think why. As the friend who got a job right out of uni, if I could have a look at their CV. And they were really helpful, and they offered loads of tips, and they sent it right over. I used to help them with their essays at uni, so I think we both enjoyed the role reversal at the start. Now, of course, they had loads of experience. Internships here and there that they weren't paid for but didn't have to be. Weeks at companies where their parents worked or they knew someone. Don't get me wrong. It's not their fault, and why wouldn't they take the advantage they had? Still probably felt like work to them. And why wouldn't someone looking at two CVs choose theirs over mine? One thing they've done was 6 months in the Gambia on their gap year, working to build community projects like schools and orphanages and hospitals. Apparently, this taught them resilience and independence and the value of giving back. So bugger all about construction. Which really begs the question, why they were doing it at all. They weren't even paid for the work that they did. They paid a company for the privilege of working. If the point was to help, why not invest in local builders and craftspeople who do a better job and have a job themselves, and the school would still be just as built at the end of it all? They're not stupid. I know that's not the point, that people want something in return, but still. I don't think people realise how bad this makes you feel. This process of applying for a job, being rejected, and then applying for something else with increasing surety that too will be a rejection. Quite how worthless, quite how alone. You might hear about depression linked to this sort of thing, but I don't know if you truly believe it. After all, it's just a job. And most people seem to hate theirs, don't they? So why should anyone care if someone doesn't have one? I haven't spoken to my friend, the orphanage building one with the great CV, in about a year now. I haven't been able to face it. I want to get in touch. Arrange to hang out, have a drink. The inevitable question will come up of, so what have you been up to lately? And I'll have to say, nothing much. And then I'll go red and quiet, and we'll both be uncomfortable, and probably just stay for one more drink. And I know I could try to explain why it was that I felt so bad, but I just don't think they'd get it. I think it's something you have to experience for yourself, like skydiving or being kissed. Oh, hang about. Notification, new email. Let's have a look then.